Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast brought to you by Seat Tires. This is DJ and I'll be your host for this week. I'm joined by Varun Garg and Ashwin Garg. It is a full house. It's a special episode. We're doing this live on YouTube. Guys, Varun, I'm going to come to you first, right?
Varun, welcome to our show, man. Have you heard of us before? Are you familiar with the concept?
I have.
Have you ever heard the podcast actually?
I have actually. On
It's
YouTube
pretty good.
now.
It's pretty good.
Not bad. The last week was not bad.
Yeah, but we missed you, man. I mean, in all seriousness, Ashwin and I got together. We had a pretty emotional episode. We wanted it to be like 45 minutes. It went on for an hour and 20 minutes. We missed you, of course. But let me get your reaction first, Varun. We recorded barely hours after that Jimmy Anderson wicket went down to Siraj. What have you been feeling in the last sort of 1 week? Have you calmed down a little bit?
I have a little bit. You mentioned Jimmy Anderson. I think he's still holding his defensive pose. It's been about 5 days. So I think he might still be like that. But it was incredible, man. I was up. I actually went into the room to like, it was very late my time. I was watching it on mute. The minute I think that Sam Curran got out, I got up, went back out, switched on all the lights, put on the TV, and I was sitting there like shouting and screaming to myself. It was an epic win, man. I don't know how else to describe it. It was epic. It was fantastic to me, two reasons. One, India doesn't have very many bowling victories. So, you've got Gabba, you've got Sydney, moral victory, a lot of it done by the batting, but very rarely do we see this kind of a bowling victory. And the second thing is, everyone in the team contributed. Every single person from number 1 to number 11. You might think the only person who didn't contribute was actually Kohli and Pant. Kohli himself got a 40, and Kohli was the reason we were that intense, or rather, the reason we made them feel like hell for 60 overs. And Pant's keeping was absolutely brilliant in the second inning. So really, I feel every single person contributed. It was one for the ages. I have actually been watching highlights of the Lord's Day 5 and Gabba Day 5 alternate every day. So I sit at my laptop, I do my emails, and on my iPad, I've got these two videos playing at all times. So it was just epic.
Did you say all 11 guys? Does that include the number 5?
The number 5 did well, but we will come to that later.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but before that, Ashwin, I think you have a question to ask Varun. Last week, I raised the 4 rice boxes story, right? Ashwin, did he tell you about that as yet?
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about it. It amazes me sometimes that so many of our listeners heard it and picked up on it and now want to hear the story. So what is the story that had you end up post-test match at Lord's, post-Lagan viewing with 4 boxes of rice and nothing to eat it with?
Yes, so DJ and I became full Besharam that day. We left the stadium knowing that India is going to lose. We had a lot to drink over there, and then we went to some person's house, okay, who I didn't know at all or very well, and we basically just imposed ourselves to the point that DJ's own wife left and said, "I can't deal with you guys."
Yeah. And I went bye-bye.
Yeah, he was not even bothered. We forced them to watch Lagan. We did our own rendition of Lagan. Like, we were acting it out as we speak. And that's when the memory kind of stopped for me, at least.
And Varun kept saying, "Bas chuke dod." That's all he kept saying.
Chuke dod kachra.
Yeah, mujhe chuke dod kachra. That's basically what I'm saying.
Vinay Minocha on the chat asked why Lagan. It's a guaranteed India win.
It's an
right? After a
India
loss.
yeah,
Over England, right? Yeah.
Over England.
So at that point, obviously, once India won the match, we needed some curry. So we ordered food, and we ordered too much food. And there was so much left over. I was on a holiday. I was staying at like an Airbnb, and DJ, being the kind soul that he is, said that I will pack you lunch for tomorrow because you are not going to be able to move, right? And you're on holiday, so you should enjoy. So the kind soul that he is, he packed 4 boxes for me. 1 box of rice and 3 boxes of butter chicken and mutton, Rogan Josh and stuff like that, and put me in a cab and sent me home. I went home, don't know what happened, woke up the next morning at 11. I was like popping pills, Crosins to feel better, and the only thing that got me through the night and the morning was knowing that there is food at home. So I got up, opened the boxes, opened the first one. It was rice, put it in the micro. And then I proceeded to open the balance 3 and they were all rice. So I had 4 boxes of rice and no curry. So
that's amazing.
And I was abusing DJ so much in my head. I don't know who had 4 boxes of curry. DJ, I really hope you didn't take that. But somebody ended up with 4 boxes of curry. And on this podcast, if you can find out who that was, do let us know.
So I remember us walking. Initially we said we're not going to take a taxi and we're going to take the tube. I remember we come to the petrol station near Lords, which if you check out our Insta reel, that's the petrol station. And that's the point that we decided to take taxis home.
Yeah.
I think that the curry boxes were left at the petrol station. Yeah. So the petrol station attendant had a great breakfast of butter chicken the next day. But that's the Lords and 4 rice boxes story. I can still imagine Varun's face when he opens that 4th box of rice, thinking there may be one.
Even one curry would have been okay. But anyway.
Yeah, and insane. Anyway, we're here to talk about cricket, right? Like we've given you the backstory to the 4 rice boxes story, but we're here to talk about cricket. Let's talk about the fallout from Lords. Okay, Ashwin, I'm going to come to you on this one first because you and I, we were quite bullish about Kohli's captaincy, his aggression. We were like, this is our captain, this is our team, no backward step, eye for an eye. But there's been some criticism about Kohliism in the press. Mukul Kesavan has written about it, saying that this is not the sort of behavior we want to see. This is not the sort of behavior kids should be watching on television. What's your take on that? Let's start with you, and I want to come to Varun on this because he should have his say as well.
Yeah, it's not the first time this has happened. It's not going to be the last, and I'm not surprised. We draw this ridiculous, and sorry, you've given me my soapbox and I'm saying this. We draw this ridiculous parallel with like, what happened to the nice guys of Indian cricket? What happened to Dravid and Lakshman and the guys who were, light and friendly and still played hard with the bat and this and that? And I think we all have very selective short-term memory issues where are you going to say something?
No, I was going to say it's true. The thing is, if you're a nice guy all the time, then 20 years later, you're going to become Indiranagar ka gunda, right? So
you're just going to implode.
It's just it's just inside you.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing. Like, I distinctly remember, by the way, when we were the nice guys, all the press coverage was like, "Where's the X factor? Where's the fire? Why don't we have players like Ricky Ponting and these guys, right? Who are more aggressive on the field and sledging and this that." So this is one of those grass is always greener on the other side type of things. It is not a surprise. Again, there will always be people who don't agree with Kohli's style, but I can't think of any one sports person who, from a leadership standpoint, who is basically universally loved, right? Maybe you can come to people who are close, but anybody who is performing at the highest levels tends to have some naysayers, right? You look at DJ, you and I've talked about tennis is top of my mind because I watched a lot of it in the last week, but a Serena Williams or a Novak Djokovic, right? The best who have ever played their games, a lot of people don't like their attitude and their style, but that fire and intensity comes from somewhere. I think it's ridiculous that we talk about this brand of Kohliism. The reality is there were 9 days between the Lord's Test ending and Headingley beginning, and people needed something to drive clicks to their website. And so that's what they did. I don't think there's any personal merit to it. I distinctly remember us asking for players with more fire and more X factor, and we got it. So let's not complain.
Fair enough. Varun, your thoughts on Jimmy Anderson's comments about Bumrah bowling too fast to him? Apparently, according to Ashwin's Kutti story video, he told him that you were bowling 85 when all the other batsmen were batting. Now you're bowling 90. What is this? Do you think that's some gamesmanship from Ashwin, or do you think that actually happened firstly?
No, I think, look, anyone who saw that, let me put it this way. I don't think it's gamesmanship. Anyone who saw that video saw how angry Jimmy Anderson was. But I'm also not going to say Bumrah's a saint or an angel. I mean, the no balls may have been a strategy. And there were many articles that came out that also said, this looks like Kohli written all over it. Maybe it was, but it kind of worked, right, in hindsight. And there is I think Ashwin in the Kutti story said that there is like this unwritten rule of the fast bowlers club that you don't bowl faster or you don't bounce out. And I mean, maybe there is, we don't know about it. It's not really come out, but I don't think Bumrah did anything wrong. I think he was cheeky to bowl no ball so that he could bowl to continue to bolt on Anderson. Look, we saw him bowl a no ball even to Ollie Robinson when he set him up, right? Maybe it's a mistake, but I think somebody like Bumrah at that stage of the game isn't going to try to get extra pace. So it may be a tactic to just get extra balls and set this batsman up, right? I mean, it's beautiful when you watch bowlers set a batsman up. So yeah, I'll be interested to deep dive a little bit into that Kutti story as well.
Yeah, Ashwin, there was an article in, I think, the Telegraph, which is a paper in the UK, talking about how free hits of a no ball would have deterred Bumrah from doing that. But to my mind, that would have just backfired because he would have bowled more bouncers at Jimmy, right? And hit him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the free hit angle. I think that's a whole new thing. I do think it's interesting. I've never really thought about the idea of when a batsman is trying to farm strike, then on the sixth ball, do you let them take the single but bowl a no ball? That happened a couple of times this series. And it's the first time I've ever honestly thought about it being deliberate. I want to give the bowlers the benefit of the doubt.
We don't talk about deliberate no balls at Lords, man. Remember the Mohammad Amir thing?
I mean, I'll talk about it all day. We talk about it a lot. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I don't think bowlers are also skilled enough to do like the 0.5 millimeter or 1 centimeter no ball on purpose, right? Typically, you've seen like with the Amir incidents, if you're trying to bowl a no ball on purpose, it ends up being one of these stupidly large no balls because it's hard to control when you're running in full speed. So I don't personally think there's much more to it. If it was a strategy, I
think it's a great strategy if you ask me. I think it's a great strategy.
But do you think it was a strategy? I'm not saying it might be a great strategy. Do you think it was deliberate?
I think the 10 no balls was a strategy.
There was 4 no balls.
There was 4
no
balls.
I meant 10 ball over. If he was bowling 10 no balls, he would have been dead. He would have been playing the 100.
Okay. Let's talk about, you mentioned briefly. I actually don't think that that Bumrah was bloody hot, man. He wasn't going to bowl a 10 ball over on purpose. I think Ashwin picked up on this last week as well. But who knows? Who knows what goes on in their head? But you picked up on the Ravi Chandran Ashwin Kutti story, Varun, and you sent us the link to that. Is Ashwin almost as good at YouTube as he is at bowling off spin?
I mean,
is that for me or no? Go ahead.
Okay, come on, Ash.
Sorry. I mean, I think he might be better. He's phenomenal on YouTube. I don't know what it is. It's somebody was saying it's like he uses it to show off his Tamil prowess, uses it to show off his pop culture references and Tamil and stuff. And it seems like it started as something that was just him having some fun. But now maybe it's the Dinesh Karthik route. He's like preceding his chops as a commentator. I mean, these guys' careers end in the mid to late 30s. They have to have an income source for the next 30, 40 years. It's a good start.
And it's very interesting because you have to watch the video, right? If you're not a Tamil speaker, you have to watch the video. So you cannot divert attention like you do with podcasts, maybe, for example.
Well, not the Edges and Sledges.
Not the Edges and Sledges.
That is listened to with full attention. Anyway, so there has been fallout from that game, right? Like your favorite player, Dominic Sibley or Dibley, Varun, is out. Malan is in. David Malan. I think he last played Test cricket against India 3 years ago, only to drop Virat Kohli and then get dropped after Edgbaston. There's no Chris Woke still, so no eye candy for you, unfortunately, Varun. Go on.
No Mark Wood as well. It just came out that Mark Wood is injured as well.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like this team is going out without Broad, Ollie Stone, Mark Wood, Stokes, and Archer. Right? 5 guys who probably would have played.
Yeah.
So is that an excuse now? Is that a 2018 no Smith, no Warner? That's why India won. Are they already setting that up?
I think so. If they just make some dust balls now, I think that'll be perfect excuse for them.
Okay. It's pretty tough, I think, for the England cricket team, but they've had 9 days to recover. And we will be back after this short break to talk about this Headingley test and preview the test. It's the 3rd test of the series. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back from that break, and you're still listening to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast brought to you by Seat Tires. We are still live on YouTube, and we are here now to talk about Headingley, the 3rd test match. Ashwin, I'm going to come to you first. Do you remember the last time India played at Headingley at all?
I mean, I don't distinctly remember it. I was younger, but I've got the scorecard open. And the time before that also we played at Headingley. We also won. And the time before that we played at Headingley was a draw. So India, if I was looking at it correctly, has not lost at Headingley since 1967. And they've played 3 matches since then. So, hey, you know what? 2 wins in the last 2 matches we played there. We got to have some confidence going in. But yeah, 2002, I was re-remembering the scorecard as you sent it out, right? Dravid at 3, Sachin at 4, Ganguly at 5, all made centuries. What a great match.
Varun, this is the test match, which I think you and me will definitely remember because we're in class 12. Ganguly and Sachin smashing the England bowlers all over the park in complete darkness nearly. It was the most incredible. It was like the batsman forced the fielding side to accept the light, because back then the light would be offered to the batsman and the batsman actually refused to take the light. It was just absolutely insane. Your memories from 2002?
Oh man, I have zero memories, unfortunately. Anyone who knows,
I could have told you he'll have no memories.
Yeah,
I could have told you he won't remember.
And Ashwin also had no memories. He just had the scorecard up in front of him.
Yeah, but I was 2 years younger than you, so it's fine.
Can I just say, Saurabh
excuse.
Jain in the comments has said heist in the dark. Can I just say the host currently is in the dark?
Yeah.
Varun.
No, man, I have a bad memory. I genuinely do. But you've given me an excuse. I will go on YouTube tomorrow morning and watch this match highlights. But I mean, speaking of Headingley, you can't not say Ben Stokes, right? Like, I watch that innings once a month. And my wife hasn't figured out that I'm watching the same game. So she thinks Ben Stokes hits the winning runs every game. And it's fantastic. And I want to see how long I can get away with this.
Clearly, she does not listen to the podcast either. But guys, so the third test is coming up. I mean, we spoke last week a little bit about India it's sort of like rerunning 2014. India was 1-0 up in 2014 when after a win at Lords going into the third test match. And things just went downhill from there. India lost that series 1-3. England won the next 3 test series. We started our blog One Tip, One Hand out of sheer frustration, which is now morphed into this podcast. So I guess we have the Indian cricket team in England in 2014 to thank for this. But the big question, right, is firstly, do we make any changes to this team? And the question is around Ravichandran Ashwin. Now, if you go back to the 2002 scorecard, the wickets in that match were taken by Harbhajan Singh and Anil Kumble. A lot of the wickets in that game were taken by Harbhajan Singh and Harbhajan Singh and Anil Kumble. Mentally, I've just compared Ashwin and Kumble just because they're 2 tall bowlers who can both bowl off spin and leg spin. But Ashwin, is there a case now to change a winning combination and play Ravi Ashwin? We've got lots of questions on Twitter about this. Amit Dubey has written in. Lots of questions have come in saying, can we play Ashwin? And if we are playing Ashwin, who is Ashwin going to replace? Is there an element of managing the fast bowlers' workload? What is the pitch going to do? So your thoughts on the Ashwin question first, please.
Yeah, it is so difficult, right? Like we've talked about this in the show. I do not envy. I mean, let's be honest. We all going into Lord said, how could you not pick Ashwin, right? Well, he must play. He has to play this. We ended up winning all 20 wickets by the quick bowlers. So it's easy to look back.
No, it was
and
19 wickets. I checked this later. There was 1 run out.
Oh, there was a run out. Okay, so no wickets by spinners. That's how you frame the stats.
That's it.
No wickets were taken by a spinner.
No wickets by spinners.
Right?
Indian spinners.
By Indian spinners.
But I have to also say, we were emotional about Ashwin. But if you listen to our preview before the series, all of us said play the bowlers on the merit of the pitch, not necessarily for quicks. But after seeing New Zealand in the World Test Championship final, we all said don't play that extra spinner for the sake. Don't play him because he's got a reputation.
Yeah, so I continue to believe that, right? Which is very tough. Like I said this in the last episode. I continue to make sure it's important. It is a false equivalency to say Ashwin versus Jadeja because Ashwin doesn't bat at 7. So you're talking always, like DJ, you framed the question, Ashwin versus one of the 4 quicks. I think you got to play that on the pitch. Historically, Headingley would have suggested, there's room for a second spinner. It has historically helped spinners. England does not have the second spinner in their arsenal like that they would want to bring in. Now, with Wood being injured, obviously to your point, Warren, earlier, no Wokes, no Broad, no Stone, no Archer. Like maybe England does decide to ask the curators to create a slightly spinner-friendly wicket and bring in another spin option. The truth is, they know they lose at that game, right? Even their not first choice quicks are probably better than their first choice spinners relatively. So short answer is, I think Kohli's not going to want to tamper much with the winning combination unless he sees the quick bowlers needing a rest. I think this test, the quicks will probably be okay just because of the long break between them. So I fully expect going out of the third test into the fourth, we'll be having more conversations about injuries or resting one of the fast bowlers.
That's a great point, because the fourth test is at the Oval Cricket Ground, where the ball traditionally has been spinning, and we could play two spinners there. It's Varun, your take on. I'm going to ask you this question. Maybe has Jadeja done enough with the ball this series so far? Or if you want to play Ashwin, who's an attacking spinner, would you play a Vihari in place of Jadeja at number 7, who's a pure batsman? Or number 6, and then push punt down one who's a pure batsman. What do you make of that? Is there any debate around Jadeja's position because he hasn't picked up any wickets so far in the series?
Look, he is one of the best all-rounders, right? And when you say all-rounder, that means bowlers as well. So when you check out his stats, he's right up there in terms of spin bowling and all-rounders. I feel like Jadeja is going to play no matter what, because India sees him as that all-rounder. So I don't feel like it's a fair comparison to say, will you replace Jadeja with Vihari? I think the question is, do you replace Jadeja with Shardul and bring in Ashwin if that is needed? Again, we have to caveat this by saying that I don't think Kohli is going to change a winning combination. B, if Kohli can get a 2-0 lead in this series and then give his bowlers a rest and play Ashwin in the oval test, suddenly things are different. So I don't see this team changing too much. We'll talk about the batting lineup soon, unless any of the bowlers need rest. So I think Ashwin was basically spot on.
Let's not forget that Jadeja also made 40 runs in that Lord's test, right? In the first innings. Like, he didn't perform in the second, but he is continuing to look good with the bat. So as a 7.
Yeah, and DJ, and a lot of people have been asking if Jadeja should bat up the order, right?
Yeah, Anu Pinayak wrote in on Twitter, very interesting question, saying, should Jadeja be moved up the order? Because we have 5 right-handers to start with?
Yeah.
Right? So should we break up those 5 right-handers with Jadeja batting at, 5? Or I don't see him batting above 5, to be honest, but moving up a couple of spots. Your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think Jadeja's he's got a pretty much a set position. I don't even think Jadeja bats at number 6 often, to be honest. So I think he's pretty much set there. I don't see India moving Jadeja up.
Understood. But now the big question, right? As I said last week, it doesn't matter who bats at 7, 8, 9. If your middle order, your big 5 batsmen aren't firing. Now, 1 and 2 have been doing a great job so far this series. KL Rahul in his short sleeves, I will add. Someone has to do these stats someday. In his short sleeves, doing really well. Rohit Sharma has looked magnificent. 3, 4, 5, Ashwin. Let's come to Pujara for you. I want to talk about Pujara. Has he done enough to stay in the team? He has, to my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's unfortunate sometimes, but this happens. And honestly, Varun will talk about it, but this happens a lot with Rahane, right? Where as soon as you've got a string of performances where the whole world is starting to say you need to get dropped, you come up with that one big game performance, right? Just at the right time. And Pujara came up with it. I mean, DJ, Varun said all 11 players performed. You specifically at last week's episode said that was one of the best sessions of Test cricket you've seen in a long time, which was just like grit and blocking. And so do you drop a guy who has the history and the stats at number 3, who's had a bad patch, and then come off of the last time he went out to bat, he was looking really good? Do you drop him then? You probably don't, right? He's probably earned a spot. Now, if he has 2 bad innings again at Headingley, you start looking at other options. I don't personally think they're going to tinker too much with numbers 3 and 5 within this series. I don't think they believe we have options. I think we do, but I don't think they currently believe we have enough good options to replace them. So we'll see. We'll see how he does, but I think both Pujara and Rahane will play at Headingley.
Okay, we've taken 3 and 5 together then. Varun, I'm going to come to 5 and we'll talk about number 4 because that's a big debate and a big chat to be had. Number 5, Varun, Rahane 50 in the second innings, crucial 50. I mean, it helped India draw level, pull ahead. Vice captain of the team. He hasn't had the best run of form, but he scored previously in English conditions. He'd scored at Lords. He'd scored 100 at Lords previously. He scored 81 at Trent Bridge when we were there last time. Are you happy with Rahane's returns this series, or do you still think he's under pressure? Do you still think he's not doing enough? And if so, who is first in line to replace him? Is it going to be Vihari, or is it going to be Surya Kumar Yadav, who's got limited over credentials, but not really played Test cricket? Well, he hasn't played Test cricket, but I don't know about his first-class credentials at the moment either.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but like I said, I'm done with Rahane. I just don't want to see him in this batting lineup anymore. I understand why Kohli has picked him. I mean, he is the vice captain. He did well at Melbourne, and now he's done decent at Lords. Yes, it was a good session. I give him credit for that. But if you look at what happened between those two innings, it's like he just saved himself by making this 61. So I'm done with him. I don't want to see him in the squad anymore. I think his time is up. And even if he hits a century, for all the haters, even if he hits a century in the next game, I still am done with him. Yes, he did well. He contributed to India's win. I'm very happy for him around that. Now, I see Pujara, and I just want to make one comment on Pujara. Pujara can play 200 balls, tire out the bowlers, and then you can have a field day, right? At number 6, 7, 8, 9. And now I can confidently say 8, 9 as well. So you can have a field day, bowlers are tired, and the whole kind of the dynamic changes when you have a Pujara. He's a pure test batsman. Yes, he needs to score faster, no doubt, but don't take away what he does for the team. So I'm a big fan of Pujara, but I'm equally not a fan of Rahane. I see, unfortunately, Vihari being a replacement for Pujara, and I really want to see Sky out there for Rahane. I think somebody who scores 40 runs quickly has the ability to change the game. So yeah, it may not be a very popular view, but I would love, also remember, Sky is in a purple patch right now, right? Anything he's doing, including videos of Bazigar and Andaz Apna Apna, are just doing great. So yeah, let's give him a shot.
I think the question is, Pujara and Rahane are both 33. So when do you make the call to say, okay, we need to bring in one person of the next generation in order to extend the longevity of 3, 4, 5? Because you can't risk. Kohli is also 33, right? Or turning 33. He's 32. So you can't risk all 3 of them wanting to retire within 6 months of each other. And so, okay, if Rahane is not performing, what's the right one to bring him in? The problem is Sky is also 30, right? So is he the right if he plays Test, is he the long-term plan, or does he give you only 1 or 2 more years than a Pujara or Rahane? I think that's where this bet's really tricky for me. I love Sky. I think he's earned a shot, but I think that's where it gets tricky from a long-term planning standpoint.
Incredible. It was only 8 months ago that we were 36 all out, and Rahane's stock went up like that. With the Indian team going up now, their stock going up, Rahane's stock seems to be coming back down. Everyone was like, we have to make him Test captain, and now we're on the verge of dropping him if Varun is to be believed. I mean, Indian cricket fans, we're a fickle lot, but we have so much choice, right? At the moment, it's amazing. I mean, the talent at the Indian cricket teams, we haven't even talked about Mayank. We haven't even talked about Shreyas Iyer, who may have red ball credentials at some stage. Sky has come in from the blue. Prithvi Shaw is waiting in the wings, who 3 years ago was our first choice opener on that 2018 tour of Australia. So there's so much pedigree, so much choice. But
I do think there's one interesting comment, by Sudeep in the chat, which says Sky in Test cricket, it is tough to play the moving red ball in England.
Yeah.
Would you risk him failing and then denting his confidence for the T20 World Cup, right? If he's a very important part of our T20 World Cup plan, do you want to have him just really laser focused and then think about him in tests after? I think it's a really interesting point. You don't want your best T20 player in the hottest form to have their confidence dented by playing Jimmy Henderson bowling a swinging red ball. It's not easy to do when you're brand new. So.
But honestly, if India take a 2-0 sort of unbeatable lead in this series at some stage, you would put these guys forward and get them that experience of playing red ball cricket at the highest level, right? I mean, if India managed to go ahead in a way that they can't lose a series, I mean, if they win here if they win here and they draw the Oval Test match, I can see these guys playing the last Test match at Old Trafford, to be totally honest. But we'll see. We'll see. The big question, guys, the big question. 2 episodes ago, Ashwin asked me, are you questioning Virat Kohli's spot in this side? I said, I'm not. But someone needs to recognize he's not scoring any runs, and he hasn't for a while. He's a class player, absolutely no doubt about it. Varun, I'm going to ask you, is Kohli trying too hard almost? Is that we saw Sachin when he was getting to his 100th 100? He felt the weight of that pressure bearing down on him. Kohli's 71st ton. I think it's been like 500 plus days now since he scored 100. It was September 2019 or something that he scored 100 in. Is the pressure beginning to tell on our man, Virat Kohli? Is he trying too hard? Is there too much intent almost in Kohli's case?
Yeah, it's possible, man. I mean, the 500 days is a great stat, but also remember COVID hit. So you have to account for that a little bit. Yes, he should be scoring more centuries. We are used to it. Kohli scoring 40s, 30s is not good enough. It doesn't work for us as Indian cricket fans. It's not something that we are used to. But also remember, this is the first time we've really seen him go through a lean patch. So let's give him that time. And, all good leaders, and I say this because Kohli is India's most successful test captain, I think. All good leaders ultimately reach a stage where they're organizing the team, motivating the team, leading from the front in terms of, providing that direction, giving the strategy. So I feel like he's elevated himself and he's doing that. Like that is a big plus point for India. So I agree with you, DJ. Like, people should be talking about his batting. He needs to think about it. He needs to think about what he can change. It almost feels like he's focused for a very long time and then suddenly loses that focus because he feels, now I've played X number of balls, I'm set. Now I can let natural instinct kick over. And it doesn't work like that. So yes, we need to question his batting and hope he does better. But I mean, on the other hand, he's winning test matches overseas. So that's a great sign.
Ashwin, a sort of bad memories returning a little bit from 2014, that tour where he averaged 13 and a half. He's currently averaging about 20. His counterpart, as the chat has pointed out, is scoring hundreds for fun. Joe Root is in the form of his life. I mean, in absolute control, really. Is there an element of 2014, the ghosts returning, which we thought Kohli had put to bed in 2018, and does he need to put away his ego a little bit and just focus on his batting like we saw him doing during that 149 at Edgbaston in 2018?
Yeah, I don't think an element of the 2014 ghosts are returning. And I think if there's one thing we know and have learned and should trust about Kohli, is that nobody is more bothered by this run of form than him. Right? We say whatever we want. We criticize. We talk about it. The person, I think I joked about this last week, but he would have been back, he would have celebrated for maybe 30 minutes and then gone straight back to the gym or straight back to the nets and have been just working hard over and over again. Now, it's not the same thing to perform in the nets as it is in a big game situation against Jimmy Anderson running in and sledging and all of the above. I don't think he looked that bad in the second innings for his 20 runs he made, or 20 odd runs. So I don't necessarily, in 2014, he looked bad. There was technique issues. There was so much going on with his foot movement, etc. I think he's due. It's coming. And like I said, I trust, after the decade plus of brilliance we've seen from this guy, that he is working on exactly what he needs to change. And I think he's going to come good in the rest of the series. So no major concerns for me just yet.
His coach, in fact, has said that he's shocked that Kohli's dropped to number 5 in the test rankings, and he'll be having a word with him. So let's hope that sparks Kohli into action. Joe Root has gone up to number 2, which, I mean, frankly, the number of hundreds I've seen him score, that's probably right. But we haven't talked about one player in that lineup, in that batting lineup so far. We've talked about everybody else. We haven't talked about Rishabh Pant. Varun, what has gone wrong with the Rishabh Pant show? Why aren't we talking about him? Let's talk about his keeping first. You mentioned it briefly, but how good has Pant been behind the stumps?
Great. It was just fantastic. And, anyone who looks at the scoreboard and has not seen the game will see a lot of buys in that second innings. That had nothing to do with Rishabh Pant. He was excellent. In fact, that number should have been higher only because of him. It stayed where it is. Look, he's creating fear in the opposition. I think that is a big plus point for us. He, I wouldn't say he's played badly, but I mean, suddenly it feels like in Test cricket, we are used to Rishabh Pant hitting 80 and 90 now regularly. So it's not always going to happen. I think if Rishabh Pant can consistently give you 40, 50, he's doing his job, right? So I'm really happy with that. I think I'd love to see him bat a little bit more. Like I said, if Rishabh Pant is batting, I drop everything and I sit and watch that no matter what, right? And it doesn't matter how many hours it is. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 2 hours. So yeah, let's just hope he does well. And honestly, from our show perspective, the fact that we're talking about others and winning, it's a great sign.
Yeah, it's incredible. Ashwin, your thoughts on Pant's approach to batting this series, dancing down the track, hitting Jimmy. We saw it during the World Test Championship final as well. Is it a bit too frenetic, or are you okay with it? I mean, does he not think he has the technique to survive in those conditions? Or is he taking the attack to the opposition in a way that it makes him unpredictable and therefore it screws with their line and length?
Yeah, when it works, it's great, right? Taking the attack to the opposition makes them unpredictable, makes them try different things, mess around. When it doesn't, it looks silly and childish. I think I've said this before about Pant. We have to take the good with the bad. His approach at 6 looks so good when 3, 4, 5 are performing, because you've got more runs under their belt, gives him more confidence. The bowlers are more tired by the time he walks out. There's more worn down. He's able to, dancing down the track after the top 5 have batted 120 overs, is very different to doing it after the top 5 have batted 40 overs and got out, right? So you're going to say something?
Can I just add, Saurabh Jain has made a great point in the chat, which says Rishabh scored 97 and 89 in Australia and batted at number 5 because there was no Kohli, remember?
I forgot about that.
Is the slight change in batting order messing with him a little bit? He's batting with the all-rounders and the tail. He's not batting with sort of frontline batsmen almost. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a good point. I don't think so. Like when we're talking about Jadeja, I was very clear. Batting with the tail is a completely different skill. And so when a guy at 7 has figured it out, don't move him, like play him in that position. I think it's really interesting to think about whether 5 or 6 has changed Pant's overall approach, responsibility, etc. My gut tells me it's more about what the top batsmen are doing. So if he walks in when the batters are more worn out, etc., or we know he loves that crazy pressure situation where India needs a stupid amount of runs. Nobody thinks they can do it, and Pant steps up and says he'll do it, right? I think in the situations where the top 5 have done okay, where the openers did well and the next 3 didn't, Pant does the same thing he normally does. He dances down the track. He plays aggressive. He tries to get under the bowler's skin, and it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. So I'm okay with him maintaining that approach. If we realize that, hey, it doesn't work in England and consistently he keeps failing, then he needs to shake things up. But I just want to plug quickly again, love what we've seen with his keeping. Just phenomenal. I mean, we talked about how this kid will grow into becoming a great keeper. Dhoni did not start as a great keeper. Very few of the all-time keeping greats started as keeping greats. So I just love watching him grow into that.
He's done an incredible amount of work clearly on his keeping. Obviously, Riddhiman Saha, who I think post-retirement will just become a wicket-keeping coach for the Indian cricket team, because if he's taken Rishabh's keeping from there to what it now is on spinning tracks as well as seaming tracks, it's absolutely brilliant what work has gone into that and making Pant a safe bet behind the stumps. So safe, as Ashwin, we pointed out last week, that Kohli was already running to celebrate before the ball had gone into Pant's gloves, right? Which was just superb. Guys, before we go into our CR strategic timeout, I'm going to ask you, Shardul has been declared fit. So Sanad Parab has written in the chat asking, Shardul is now fit. Assuming all our bowlers are fit, what is your bowling lineup for the 3rd test match at Leeds? Ashwin, you first, please.
Oof, I wasn't ready for this. You're not leaving out Bumrah. You're not leaving out Jadeja. I don't think I'm leaving out Shami. And I don't think I'm leaving out Siraj. So for me, the question mark becomes Ashwin versus Ishant. Ishant is the oldest. There's some fitness stuff.
No Shardul in the discussion at all.
Or Ishant Ashwin or Shardul, I guess. I don't personally rate him as a number 8 batsman. He was effective in the first test, but again, people who've listened to this show know I don't rate him too highly. But for me, the discussion is at 4th. So I'm not messing around with anybody except Ishant, maybe. And that just depends on how he's feeling fitness-wise, etc. He did bowl well. He did have some great patches where he put pressure, but off the 4 quicks, I think he was the least effective at Lords. So if you have to make a change, that's where it would come from for me.
Varun, your thoughts on the bowling lineup for the Leeds Test match?
No, I don't think there's going to be any change. Not this soon. Not for me. I don't want to discuss it further because I think Ashwin covered most of it, but I don't think there's going to be any change.
There you have it, guys. Varun's going with no change. Ashwin seems to be going with no change as well at the moment. So fitness permitting, we will be playing the same 11 according to the Edges, at least majority of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. It doesn't matter what I think now. Moving on, guys. We will be back straight after this break, the SEAT Strategic Timeout, with more in the world of cricket. There's a certain T20 tournament that's kicking off in less than a month. So we will be talking all about that. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back from that SEAT Strategic Timeout, and you're still listening to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast brought to you by SEAT Tires. IPL 2021, halfway through, it was abandoned. It's back in less than a month, guys. The MS Dhoni ad has been released. It is firstly, Varun, what do you make of that MSD ad? What do you make of his hairdo? Does he look a bit like Hardik Pandya? I have so many questions. I don't know what to make of that.
It was a really weird ad, man. Like I couldn't imagine MS Dhoni doing that, but yeah, he's clearly signed on as like the ambassador for Star Sports and the IPL. And yeah, I mean, it's okay. I think it's fine. He's allowed to have fun. He's just out there doing whatever he wants. And it was weird. I have to say it was weird.
Ashwin, did you get a chance to watch MS Dhoni in that
I haven't seen the ad. I've seen some of the still images which have become memes. So I've seen the hairdo and what he did. It's a little bit strange, but I haven't seen the ad yet. So no comment for now. I'm going to take the politically correct answer.
Nice. And Varun, what does it feel like going into the IPL at the top of the table? It's a bit odd, right?
It's a bit odd, and I mean, on September 18th, I'm going to be forwarding that screenshot of the table to everyone I know. So that's going to be great. And like I've said this before, man, this is a problem because now I want IPL every 6 months. So this is going to be a big issue in my life. Luckily, till April 2022, I'm sorted. After that, we'll have to see how it goes.
Okay, we've got a great message in the chat. Sorry, this is slightly off topic, but Aditi Singh has said Varun looks like Badshah. We previously had
yeah, I mean,
Varun looks like Sabresh Shamshi in our Discord channel. I've been called London ke Guddu Bhaiya from Mirzapur.
Yeah, there's too much going on, man. Nandan is like, I have put on weight and stuff, which is like...
I think he said the actual Shamsi has put on weight. The actual Shamsi has put on weight.
He's not saying that. But yeah, I'll take Badshah. That's pretty good because party to abhi shuru hui hai.
You took a second to decide whether it meant like Badshah the singer or like Shah Rukh from the movie.
Because I saw Badshah last night. I saw the scene where Johnny Lever was on the plane. So I was like confused.
Dr. Rustam for the win. Anyway, there's some team news, right? In the IPL. Varun, there's a Singaporean cricketer that is now going to play the IPL. How cool are you feeling about this? And why aren't you the first one to be doing this?
I'm so excited. In fact, I was going to ask you guys, I think I should just reach out to him saying as a fellow Singaporean citizen, we'd love to have you on this podcast. And he's been doing some great things, right, DJ? I mean, I think he's got 200s in the Royal London Cup, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact details, but
the ODI tournament, yeah.
Yeah, but he's been doing excellent work. And a friend of mine and I have been discussing at what point does he get into the IPL? And it's happened sooner than we expected. So, full marks to him for kind of creating that... I don't know, creating something that they picked him up.
He celebrated it by running Liam Livingstone out at the 100 final. I was there at the final. It's a weird tournament, man, the 100. It's fine while the international players are playing. But like I think the domestic talent is sort of lacking a little bit. So once the big players are gone, it just kind of tails off. So when Liam Livingston was hitting the ball, oh my God, how that guy has not played for Rajasthan is just absolutely mind-boggling. He hits the ball. He hit the ball into the hospitality boxes once, which at Lords is a long way away. It's in the second tier. It was just incredible, and I got run out from a direct hit by Tim David from like on the turn from cover point. It was just absolutely insane. Yeah, but I'm not sure about the 100, man. I know everyone's saying, "Oh, we'll see you next year" and all, but I don't think I'm going next year. Firstly, it's sold as this whole like kid-friendly atmosphere. It's actually not. That's for the television. I feel that it was basically like a bunch of people who would otherwise go to the pub, ending up at the cricket at Lords, which is I don't know. It was a bit of an odd day out, I felt, and there were no Indian players on display. So I mean, Smriti would have been playing for the Southern Brave, but she went back home, and yeah. Anyway, Moeen Ali was cool, so was Liam Livingston. But Glenn Phillips has also been picked up. Ashwin, your thoughts on him?
I feel like it was inevitable, right? So between the delayed IPL season, which means a lot of players are not available, it's going to be a compressed season. It's right before the T20 World Cup. So some players are looking at it as great, awesome World Cup match practice, etc., which I think is true. It's going to be good for the Indians, but it's also going to be equally good for the overseas players. I think it was also inevitable that a lot would pull out and not be able to go, right? A lot of these guys have spent months, years even away from their families, away from their homes. So I think it was inevitable. And when you start going down the list of who has had a good domestic franchise league season, etc., and really popped in the last little bit, it was amazing to see the 100 kind of became an audition for the IPL, and like clockwork, the day or within the hour the 100 ended, all these guys started getting picked up. So good for Glenn Phillips. I think it was one of those inevitable ones. Now how much game time he gets will be seen.
Yeah, and remember, there's no Butler, Stokes, or Archer. So I mean, I don't know. Is basically this team is Sanju Samson, right, and 10 other guys versus everyone else. Like not having these three guys it's not like Rajasthan Royals is top of the table, but I just can't imagine what will happen without the three of them.
Are they the worst impacted though, Varun, by the pullouts and the injuries?
I do think so, man. I mean, these are marquee names. I mean, let's not forget there's one thing is getting to the top of the table and making the playoffs. Second is the whole monetary aspect of this. I'm sure those three guys drive a lot of like revenue for the Rajasthan Royals. So it's a big hit. And it's just kind of come all at the wrong time for them. If even one of them was out, the other two are big names. It's just unfortunate for Rajasthan Royals.
Ashwin, you're the guy who keeps track of like the fringe players typically. Who is Nathan Ellis for Kings 11 Punjab? Are they called the Punjab Kings? What are they called now? I've totally forgotten.
They're called the Punjab Kings.
Punjab Kings 11 or Punjab Kings?
Just Punjab Kings.
Okay, nice.
Like they wanted the format that it worked. Mumbai Indians, Delhi Capitals, Punjab Kings. They didn't want any of this crazy Kings 11, KXIP. Honestly, I don't know much about Nathan Ellis, right? He apparently had 3 franchises chasing him. You can tell I'm going to quickly read as I go, so I look like I know what I'm talking about. But he has played for Australia. He's made a debut. I think he's the guy that picked a hat-trick on an international debut against Bangladesh. So one of the many new, who are the others? Riley Meredith, Jai Richardson, one of the many new Aussie quicks that got picked up for the first time, if you will, in the 2021 season. It remains to be seen. Again, I don't love that right before the World Cup we're giving all these guys international match practice, but the IPL teams need to put their franchise first for the rest of the season. So I get it.
I mean, if anything, Australia need T20 practice, man. They are awful. They've been awful in the last year for T20 cricket. But the IPL is going to be back in less than a month. We will be covering all of that. It's going to be great fun. Delhi Capitals, our team is, of course, on the top. Do we know who our captain's going to be? Presumably, Iyer is back in and he will take over the reins, right?
I think so. Sorry, I'm jumping in, but I think it has to be Iyer, right? He's going to be fit and back. And there's kind of the long-term strategy with Iyer as our captain. So I do think it'll be him.
Yeah, I also saw him do a standing jump of like 3.3 meters, apparently, which is quite a lot, right?
Wow.
It's pretty strong. Like, wow. Okay. Anyway, guys, that is the show for this week. We are looking ahead to the Leeds test match. It starts on Wednesday. We'll be covering it on the show next week. But we, like every week and every month since we've been in partnership with Seat Tires, we have a bat, an autographed cricket bat to give away this week. This month, sorry. For the month of August, the question is, tell us the player that holds the record, the Indian record for hitting the maximum number of sixes in an innings. Not in a test match, not the world record. Indian record, maximum number of sixes in an innings. It's held jointly with Navjot Singh Sidhu. It's an active cricketer, and that cricketer opens the batting. So tell us with the hashtag #BatWithSeat on Twitter. Tell us the answer to that, and you will be entered into a draw to win an autographed cricket bat by Seat Tires. So, guys, that is the show. Leave us a review. Lots of you are subscribing to us on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe so you get notified of new episodes as they come out. We tend to put up the raw video on YouTube. Thank you all for all the comments on the live chat. Sorry we couldn't go through all of it because we're also trying to deal with all the topics at the same time. So maybe we will get better at it. But it's been great, guys. It has been amazing having both of you on the show. It's been a long time since we've done a full house. So the energy I thought was excellent, Varun and Ashwin. Thank you for joining me on this episode. And we will see you next week. This is the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast brought to you by Seat Tires.